When you manage procurement for multiple facilities, every order matters. But when it's for a hospital system, they matter even more. Grainger gets it and knows there's no time for managing multiple suppliers and no room for shipping delays. That's why Grainger offers millions of products in fast, dependable delivery, so you can keep your facility stocked, safe, and running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Victory Lane? Yeah, it's even better with Chumba by my side. Race to ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21 plus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
There are heroes and there are legends. Heroes come and go. Legends never die. We usually say that you cannot become a legend before death. These are living legends. If the legends fall silent, who will teach the children of our ways? Sun Coaches Podcast, Season 5, brought to you by Titan Sensor, is proud to present The Legends. Sun Coaches is proud to partner with Titan Sports for the next 4 seasons on Sun Coaches Podcast. Titan GPS delivers technological superiority and improved player performance through wearable GPS made for high school football and strength and conditioning. From speed training to athlete recruit to workload enhancement, Titan is the easy-to-use yet comprehensive GPS tool to get it done. There's no minimum to get started, and Titan will walk you through every step to success. Message us on X at Titan Sensor to learn more and get in touch. Welcome to Sun Coaches Podcast, Season 5, the Legends Series. And today I've got one of my favorite guys. I got to work with him when I was first breaking into coaching. He's got a 78.6% winning percentage, only 18 years as a head coach, taking 4 different teams to at least the semifinals, won 2 state championships. Coach Franklin Stevens, thanks for being with me.
No problem. Appreciate you having me.
Well, Coach, I know some of your story, but share with us. I know you grew up in Burke County, and it's made up of a bunch of little towns. So tell everybody where you grew up.
Well, I grew up, as you said, in Burke County, and it's very rural. As you said, the small little towns that we have. You experienced it when you were here. We got Keysville, Gulf, Midville, Sardis, Girard, Alexander. Then you got some other places. You know, they just got some names, but like a lot of these small counties, you just got a lot of little communities out there. But at the same time, I grew up in the middle of nowhere. You know, my address always says Keysville, but it's about 12 minutes outside of Waynesboro, probably about 8 minutes from Keysville, a couple minutes from Gulf. So it's really out in the middle of nowhere on a dirt road.
And your parents, didn't your dad farm?
Yeah, my dad was a deputy sheriff and he was a farmer. And really, you know, when you're growing up, you really hate doing all that stuff you have to do on the farm, especially when, you know, you got a lot of friends and things, they're doing other stuff, which a lot of it had to be, it's probably a bunch of nothing. But at the same time, when I got older, I could start really appreciating what I learned from my dad and being raised on the farm.
And you went to Burke County High School, consolidated while you were in elementary school or middle school? Or
actually, no. I was my freshman class was the first group into the new high school.
I bet that was a miss.
Well, honestly, as a freshman, I don't remember a lot just because you're playing football and, I mean, life is life. You don't think none of it. Just that all of a sudden, you know, you've been in those small buildings and you go into that new high school and it's an unbelievable facility. I'm talking about unbelievable facility. And it's just so large. You're just trying to find your way through and navigate through it. And it worked itself out. I like to think that I had a good career there. I met a lot of great people. And that's one of the things that since I've been a head coach, I've been fortunate to meet a lot of great people. And it was, like I said, it was a pretty good experience. It was high school.
Who was your high school football coach?
I had 2 high school football coaches. My 9th and 10th grade year was a guy named David Franks. And our defensive coordinator, you may be very familiar with him, it was C.B. Cornett.
Okay.
And, that was our weight room guy. You know, man, I'm telling you now, there's a lot of stories about C.B. Cornett. But one thing that I can appreciate from him. And even when we played them, when I became a head coach, he was at Westside Macon, and that those guys were going to be strong. And we were a strong football team during those times. And after my sophomore year, they got let go. And a guy named Tom Temple came in. You may have heard of Coach Temple. He came in, and I played up under him my senior year.
So did you do anything other than football, or were you just a football player?
I did track. I threw the shot and disc and track. During those days, we didn't have wrestling. If we'd had wrestling, I probably would have wrestled, but we didn't have that, so it was track. Wasn't a basketball guy. Wasn't a baseball guy. I enjoyed throwing the shot and disc and track.
And you went on to play at Georgia Southern.
That is correct. I got an opportunity in 1991. Coach Stowers and Coach Hodges came in, and they offered me, and I had an opportunity to go some other places. But one of the things that was important to me, and Georgia Southern fit that bill, was the fact that my mom and dad could easily come see me play. And I thought that was important.
Yeah, because it's just right down the road.
Well, it was only maybe an hour and 10 minutes from my house.
Yeah. And you were there?
I was there from 91 to 94.
And you were an All-American there too, weren't you?
Yeah, I was actually 2-time All-American, and I actually won the Jacobs Blocking Trophy my senior year.
And Coach Hodges was your position coach?
Yeah, he was my position coach. And the great thing at that time was, Coach Hodges was old school hard. Now, you get a lot of folks talking about being hard and all this toughness and all this kind of stuff, and I just think they're clueless. And when you deal with Coach Hodges, he put a different type of toughness, a different type of hard, a different edge on you. And at that time, he became like a surrogate father. Like a lot of coaches do. I had a dad, and I had a great dad, but as far as having somebody that in day to day, my dad was in my life day to day. So all of a sudden to go somewhere and you had structure, but you didn't have that daddy structure. I think he did a great job kind of filling that role during those times.
And that's where you met all the guys that I've met over the years, because a lot of you guys ended up being high school football coaches and played with those guys. And at Georgia Southern, yeah. that blue, that Eagle Pride and all that group down there. There's so many of you guys that have gone on to be successful high school coaches, and
I have no idea how many guys from those teams, I should say, during the era in which I played. There's some guys who came out there, but just during that era, there's a lot of guys out there. They coached football at some point and moved on into administration, and a lot of those guys they're knocking on that retirement time now.
Yeah. Makes me wonder what I was thinking about. Where did I go wrong? So
life is about choices.
Well, yeah, you're right. I don't have anybody to blame but myself for that. But so you go there, and did you have any opportunity to play at the next level after college?
I got an opportunity after college. I got an opportunity to try out with the St. Louis Rams. I went to camp with them and ended up getting cut. Then I went back and finished up my degree. And after I finished up my degree, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. And honestly, it was Coach Hodges. He sat down and he told me, he said, well, there's a guy in Burke County. He just got the job. You need to go talk with him. And that was Mike Fallure. And I went in and talked with Fallure, and, he offered me a job. I was going to have to go to an alternative certification program at that time. It's called Fast Track. It wasn't the TAPS and all the different things you hear now, but it was called Fast Track. And I spent almost 2 years in that program and got my teacher certification.
Yeah,
Coach Fallure kind of gave me the start.
Yeah, I ask people all the time. I'm like, well, did you know you wanted to be a coach, or did you major in something else and got in the wrong line? Or
I was a criminal justice major, and I did an internship with the parole board down in Statesboro, and I was actually going to move into that direction, some form, some fashion. And like I said, I sat down with Coach Hodges, was getting ready to try to make a decision on applying for jobs and getting jobs, and he told me, he said, hey, and what happened back then, you were on the quarter system. So Georgia Southern, we would go from, we'll go from August to December, and then we'll go from January to March, and then we'll pick up in March and finish up in May. Well, I finished all my requirements. My last internship lasted from January to March. And like I said, I think it was in March I talked with him. And Coach Fuller just so happened he was getting a job in Burke County. And after the conversation with Coach Hodges, I was a guy that can follow instructions. So I went in and talked to Fuller, had a great conversation with him, and ended up getting a job and moving to coaching.
And what year was that?
That was 1996.
96 with Fuller. So you were on the staff when they took the point, made them re-kick the extra point down in Thomas County
Central with Joe Burns, yes.
Yeah, I've told people a thousand times over the years when they said that they wouldn't want a tie, and I remember you saying, "Yeah, you would. You would have taken."
Yeah.
I remember you and Nick saying, "Yeah, you would. You'd take that tie."
You would have taken that tie and moved on, And that's a pride thing.
Yeah.
But for some guys, and
well, these young coaches, they think, they're like, I wouldn't want a tie, and I'm sitting there going, no, you would take the tie, dude.
Yeah, you're thinking about yourself as opposed to everything you put in with your kids.
Yeah.
And for your kids, it would mean the world. And the thing about it is, we all, as coaches, we would say all the great things that football do for kids, and not just for kids, for the communities and all those things. But at the same time, those kids been working pretty much since the previous January. And they're at that moment, that's a huge letdown for them right there. And, if you got something that you can finish with on a positive note, saying that hey, you're sharing this, or, you're part of this, especially with Thomas County Central during those times, because that may have been their field for 6th state championship. So, that was a heck of a measuring stick, to be on the field with them. And if you kind of could have finished it even, we would want it. But at the same time, be able to finish it, man, it would have been unbelievable.
Well, I know we'll circle back around to this later on in the conversation, but talk about the administration y'all had down there, because I missed him before I came in, but I remember hearing stories about how tight a ship was run at Burke County.
That was Jack Willis. Mr. Willis was the way to describe him is he's a man's man, and he was gonna run that school, and whatever he put in writing, that's what you were gonna do. And, a lot of the issues and things, and, a lot of people say, well, those things wouldn't work this day. And you never know, because what happens is people get used to it and it becomes a way of life. But as far as running a school, he ran an unbelievable school, and he was a great guy to work for.
Yeah, I remember when I got there in 2001, you and Coach Davis telling a story about him getting on the radio and saying somebody had been let go and they were going to be escorted off campus. It was like second period, and they were allowed to come back on campus later to get their stuff, and y'all were downstairs and y'all both picked up a broom and just started.
Yeah, man, you're gonna find something, dude. It's kind of like, when teachers are supposed to be standing at the doorway between classes, it was your best bet to be standing at the doorway between classes. That's the only thing I'm gonna say about that.
Oh yeah. And that's when I met up with y'all in 2001 when Coach Davis got the head coaching job. And I've told people this a million times. I'm like, y'all aren't going to believe this, but Coach Stevens was our defensive coordinator and the offensive line coach at the same time. And they're like, really? I'm like, no, really. And he was really good at both things. I was like, it was crazy. I've never seen that combination before.
In Camden, 2 years, for 2 years, I was the defensive coordinator and helped with offensive line.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, so it can happen. And it just comes from, like I said, you start going back to that farm, and it's just a thing of work ethic. And that's what it is. When you start I look at my career, and I've been blessed by the good Lord, but I tell you, the one thing that I learned from my mom and my dad, and I got a good buddy, we talk about it all the time, it's just that work ethic. And I truly believe that, if you possess work ethic, that you can beat a lot of people now, because most people are just not willing to do it. They talk about it. They like to hear about it, and they really like to hear themselves talk about it. But when it comes down to it, they don't really want to do it. They don't really want to make that commitment to day in and day out in doing it. And I just believe that if you're willing to outwork people, you can have success.
I also remember being over there, I learned.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Victory Lane? Yeah, it's even better with Chumba by my side. Race to ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21 plus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
So much from y'all, and we had bonfire the last night at camp. We let the seniors stand up and say whatever they wanted to. And I've told people this story again, another story. There's so many stories from there, but I I remember you were just laid down, propped up, and you were chewing on a toothpick, and those kids would the seniors would stand up, and y'all let them say whatever they wanted to say. And just about every one of them would point at you and say, he was mean, or I didn't like that man, or I don't like that man, or whatever. And you didn't bat an eyelash. You just kept looking at them, and every one of them to a child at the end said, but he has made me a better man and a better football player. And I've never forgotten that.
And really, that's what it's about.
And you just kept on, you just kept looking at them like, well, yeah, I did my job.
Yeah. Well, nobody likes to be challenged. They don't like that. They don't like the structure part of it because a lot of people just not used to it. When you put a bridle on a horse the first time you put it on him, he don't just like it. You know what I'm talking about? But in order to control him and get him to do what you want him to do, you got to put it on him. And when you're dealing with kids and even sometimes adults, I tell kids this all the time, and I tell adults this. It is human nature to survive. It's not human nature to be great. So as humans, all we want to do is survive. And you got to be willing to push and push and push. And, one thing throughout my career, and there's a mistake that when I talk to younger coaches and I tell them, one of the things is, dealing with their families. But the other one is you can push, but you need to be appreciating what guys are doing. Like when I was at Tucker, we had some phenomenal guys they were unbelievable players, but you're pushing. And sometimes you miss what you need to see those guys are doing and appreciating the work that they're putting in. And it's a thing of beauty because what happens is you'll look back at it on film and you go, wow, man, that guy. And then that guy becomes a legend that you're talking about consistently. But, when you're pushing them through it, that's not what's on your mind. You're just trying to get them to be the best they can be. And that's part of that putting the edge on kids and getting those kids ready for Friday nights. And that's what you're trying to do. And not only Friday nights, trying to get them ready for life.
So after Burke County, we all split up and went our separate ways. Yep. Where did you end up going after that?
Went down to Cannon County as an assistant coach, and that probably is really what changed my course as a coach, going down there, getting with Coach Herron.
And how long were you with Coach Herron?
I spent 5 years down there.
And what all did you do there? Well, you said you were.
When I went in, I actually went down there because of Terry Crowder. When I first went to Burke County with Falua, Terry Crowder was the defensive coordinator for 3 years. And, when things kind of got twisted in Burke County, he reached out to me and asked me about, coming down there. And I had an opportunity to go a couple of different places. And, I always liked Crowder. I was very fond of him. And then when I went down and talked with Coach Herron, I enjoyed our conversation. And I was like, this is a pretty good place. It got my wife closer to Jacksonville, where she was from. So I thought it would be a great situation when I went there. And it turned out, it really worked out for me.
So after Camden, what was one of the biggest things you learned from Coach Herron when you were down there? I know you learned a lot, but if you could pinpoint one thing, I remember something you told me. I'm going to wonder if that's what you're going to say.
It's probably not going to be it because of the fact that I said so much stuff. But at the same time, one of the things with Coach Herron was just his organization.
That was it.
his organization was unbelievable. And that's one of the things, I hate to say pride, but I take pride in being organized because I feel like it takes no talent to be organized. You just got to do the work and you got to put the time in, and you should have plans for everything. And I never forget, and I told my wife about this here. We screwed up. I think it might have been the first game down there. We screwed up a timeout. We were playing Charleston. Somehow we screwed up a timeout. And the next week in practice, we worked on timeouts, timeout organization. It's just like things like that you don't think about. And I never really thought about a timeout, as a player and as a coach, it just kind of happened. But to this day, I still use that same format that we put in down there. Is just, this is how we're going to do timeouts. And when I meet with coaches in the summertime, we do our retreats and things. It's one of those things where I tell them, hey, this is how we do timeouts. And we price it as a team that, these guys are going to be here. These guys are going to be here. This coach is going to talk. This coach is going to talk. It's kind of the way we do it.
Well, and you taught me too, after being down there, we spoke at a clinic off to the side, and you said something else that you picked up that I learned from you was that as high school football, you're playing the clock.
Correct.
And I was like, what? And you said, baby, you're playing the clock. Get ahead. And they're playing the clock because at some point in time, it's going to hit zeros. And all you got to do is have one more than they do. And if you can learn how to play the clock, you can figure the rest out.
Yeah, oh yeah. That's the thing that we learned is, how to win games. And, Coach Herring, one of the other big things, I mean, he had so much stuff you can learn from him, but he would say more people lose games than win games. And if you start watching football, and I've heard Kirby Smart up at Georgia talk about it all the time about managing games and the things that happen within games, playing the games within games. But you'll watch a lot of people find ways to lose games. They just find a way, whether it's clock mismanagement, personnel mismanagement, they'll find a way to lose a game. And one of the things I think that we took pride in down there is, how to win games. And, one of those things was being good on defense. And I can't say much. I was talking to Coach Youngboy earlier, and I was like, golly, man, this year, we struggled on defense. We were just kind of outscoring people. But, you build up that lead and you want to try to get a lead, or you're trying to keep it close and just figure out how to win the game. But, a lot of people think that, when you get a lead, yeah, you want to keep your foot on the pedal, but you don't really want to have to take chances anymore. You want to just be a base team. And I can't tell people what's going to work for them, but our goal is to be a base team, do things what we need to do, run the clock, play football. And Coach Henry used to tell us all the time, hey, any offensive possession is a good possession if it ends in a kick. If you can kick the ball, whether it's extra point, field goal, punt it, at the end of the possession, then you got a chance to have good offense. Don't beat your defense by playing bad on offense. And we learned the value of special teams and defense.
So you parlayed, is this after Camden, is this when you got your first head coaching job?
Yes, correct. And honestly, it's one of those things that I kind of just walked into because of the fact that at that time I was extremely happy in Camden. Me and my wife, we had just built the house. We had been in our house 10 months. We had built a house, and like I said, we love the situation. We love the area, and I got a call about Tucker, and I was really very apprehensive about it because of the fact that it's not something I thought I was ready to do or really wanted to do. And I'll never forget, me and my wife, we were going through we were working on our dissertations, and she was up late working on hers, and she came in and she woke me up. I was asleep. She woke me up and she told me, she said, well, you need to apply for the Tucker job. And I was like, why? She's like, because I don't want to hear you saying, I wish this and I should have this and all these different things. And it was the last day, and I called the principal up there and told him I was going to apply. And he's like, you got such and such time, go ahead on and get your stuff in. And the rest is kind of history. And Coach Herring was very supportive in regards to moving on as well.
So your first day at Tucker, first time you walk in at Tucker, what's the first thing you wanted to establish and get right? Your first head coaching job, you walk in, what's something you knew from what you'd learned at all your stops so far that you knew, all right, if we're going to get this thing where it needs to be, or the way I want it to be, what's got to be first? Was it weight room? Was it staff? Was it, what was your first goal to get checked off the list?
Meet the players and discipline. Because when I walked into the locker room, I realized there were some issues. And what I mean by that is the locker room was not the way it needed to be. And one of the first things we need to do was get the locker room in order, because that's where, your players spend a lot of the time. And I had to watch some film, and I knew that if we could they were athletic, and, everybody's going to go down the line, sophomores, juniors, seniors, this kid is going. And I knew we had a great group of kids coming back, and we were adding one. And I was like, we got a chance to be pretty dang good. And then all of a sudden I began to focus on trying to get coaches in, as well as, we were trying to run. I think I got the job. I remember April, might have been 18th was my first, I think was the day I accepted the job. I got the job, but spring practice was 2-3 weeks away. And we had started those morning agility exercises down in Canham. And I knew that's something I wanted to get done at Tucker because of the fact that I kind of saw how it transformed us at McEachern and what it did for us at Burke. So I knew that was important, but we didn't have a lot of time. So I had to get coaches coached up because we were getting ready to go to 2 new systems. We were getting ready to go to the wing tee, and we were getting ready to go to a 3-3-5 defense. Well, here's the thing about it, and that's kind of interesting. I didn't have a wing tee guy. I was the wing tee guy. So I was a defensive coordinator in Camden. I had learned the wing tee, and here's something that Coach Herring did that taught me the wing tee. Back then we had LRS system. It's kind of like what we have with Huddle 9, but we moved from LRS to I think it was DSV, DVS, or whatever it's called, DSV. And what Coach Herring would do is he made me put in, when I was breaking down film, another team's offense, I had to put everything in wing T terminology. So I learned the wing T by putting that stuff in and day out. And that's just the way he wanted it, and that's the way I did it. So I was able to learn the system and kind of just, one thing I've always tried to do as a coach is learn as much as I can learn. I've never thought about being a offensive line coach or defensive line coach. I was going to be a football coach. I was going to know as much on offense as I knew on defense. So when I first got to Tucker, I had to run the offense. And I started teaching guys while I was there, how to do these things. And so I got a guy comfortable to call plays. I was the primary play caller for about to the middle of the season. I kind of turned the defense over. I had a good guy, his coach Lamar. He's the head coach up at South Gwinnett right now. I turned the defense over to him, and he did a great job. He was waiting on his opportunity to kind of be a defensive coordinator. He had been at Tucker. He's a Tucker alum. And he did a great job getting those guys going on the defense side of the ball. We was unbelievable on defense because even though we had players, we were struggling trying to get offense going. I mean, we had, good God Almighty, we had unbelievable players. And but defense kind of kept it together for us until offense, so we can kind of find our way and get better.
So how many years did it take before you won the first state championship?
We won year 2. I call it the meltdown. Year 1, we got in the semis with Northside, Warner Robins. We were up 28-7, and we ended up losing 31-28. And, God, if I would have been anything outside of a first-year coach, we would have probably won that game because when I look back at it, some of the decisions that were made, there were some chances we needed to take in the second quarter, not in the second quarter, in the second half. And I was just reluctant. I was like, hey, we know what? We'll win this thing with defense. And they hit us over the top a couple of times and for some big plays and got momentum, and we end up losing at 31-28. But the next year we come back and we end up winning it.
So what was that like, the very first one?
It was unbelievable. I tell you what, though.
I mean, you'd won one as an assistant, but winning one as a head coach, I mean, it
was an unbelievable feeling. But I tell you what I learned at that time. I learned that there was something bigger than football because of the fact that I remember the next day laying on the couch, and you getting all these texts all night long from people congratulating you and everything. And at some point, I shut the phone off because of the fact that I thought, man, it's got to be something more, because of the fact that in my mind, I've left the state championship. It's over with. What's next? I've always kind of been a what's next guy. And I'm sitting there thinking, what's next? And that's done. And it's almost like I didn't enjoy it. It was almost like, man, it's over with. All right, let's get ready to move on to the next thing. And I realized that the thing that was missing is where we're affecting kids' lives, and then what was going to be our spiritual component into our program. And I realized that those things were very important besides a state championship.
So that's when you started injecting that into your program.
Yeah, we were already kind of doing it, but I really just made a wholehearted effort to get that done.
So how many years was it in between? Was it 2 years in between the two?
Yes, the next year we ended up 9-3. Got beat by Sandy Creek, and man, I still, when I talk about that Sandy Creek game, Chip, they did a great job. Coach Walker, they did a phenomenal job.
Hey, it's Cole Swindell. After I give everything I've got to land a perfect vocal, I usually take 5 before jumping into the next track. And I've learned exactly how to recharge in that time. Some folks grab coffee. I hit a quick good luck spin. Next thing you know, the break is just as fun as laying down the track. A better break makes for a better take. Need a break? Let's chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus TNC supply. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
But we lose that game, and we do not give up a defensive touchdown. We gave up a fumble on a kickoff, and they run it back for a touchdown. They return a punt, and then we snap the ball over the dang punter's head, and they get enough yards to kick a field goal, and they win 17-14. Yeah. Yeah, so I thought we had a chance, and I remember talking to Chip about it. Whoever won that game was going to have a chance to win the state championship. And fortunate for them, they won. They found a way to score more points that night.
And then the next year was the year y'all won it, where you got mollywopped by Marist in the regular season and came back and got them.
That was 08 where we got.
Oh, that was the first one.
Yeah, the first one we got beat to death by Marist on TV. And it was a beating. I'm talking about it was 38-0. And I'm talking about, when I say a beating, it was a thorough beating. And, we got better. we weren't healthy in '08. And I think game 5, no, game 6. I'm not. I'm wrong. It was Southwest Cab, so it was game 9, 8-9. We finally got everybody back. And we lost one in the defensive line. We lost him for the year, third play of the game. He gets leg whipped against Brunswick first game, and we lose him. But we've got guys just banged up, hurt. We got guys out. And game 9, we got them all back. Everybody finally got back. And all of a sudden, you can just kind of see us taking off. We start getting better and better and better and better. And next thing you know, we're down there in the quarterfinals with Westside Macon, CB Cornett. And it was Coach Davis was the head coach, but CB coached on that staff. And we go down to Westside Macon. They're the number 1 team in the state. And they've been beating people to death. And they've been sitting down at the half. And we thought, hey, you know what? We go down here and keep this thing close. We got a chance of winning it because they ain't been pressed. And we go down there, and our guys, they perform. And I think we end up winning that game 30-20, something like that.
And then the second was when y'all beat Lovejoy.
Yeah. But before that, though, we have some more heartache. God Almighty, no, we're in 10, we were freaking unbelievable. I mean, I'm talking about and it was a learning lesson. I think there's a lot of things that you've got to learn, and the learning lesson in 10 was this, and my wife taught me this one right here. In 10, we were good, Glenn. When I say good, I'm talking about we were dang good. We had players all over the freaking place, and they could play. Even the guys who physically may not look the way you want them, they could play, and they thought they were supposed to win. And we're in that game against Stars Mill, and we get a holding call, get a touchdown back. We got a freeze call on 4th and short, and lineman jumped. And I'm like, where are you going? It's not even a play call. So we were just doing stupid stuff. But at the end of the game, we made the play that we need to make to win the game. All we got to do is kill the clock. That's right. It's 2 minutes or so left to go in the game. We run our best play with our best player, and he spins fighting for yards, and that ball pops up in the air. Three plays later, 51 yards, they're in the end zone. They win the game 20-19 in the semis. And I can't get out of bed. I'm so miserable the next day, disappointed, just because I knew we were going to win. I mean, we got dang good. And my wife, she said, I don't know what's wrong with you. Y'all been doing that stuff all year long. And she was right. We had been getting inopportune penalties, but we were good enough to overcome it. That night against against Stars Mill, we were not good enough to overcome it, and it got us. And that's when all of a sudden I used to pay attention to details, and I was a very detailed person, but that really heightened me on the details. I'm talking about everything. And the next year we come back and we run the table. We go 15-0 and win it.
So after Tucker, a massive success, you're skyrocketing, and you've won the quickest to 100, all that stuff. What made you decide to head to Lamar County?
Well, you know, the thing about Tucker, after being in Burke County and being in Camden County, you knew that there was better things out there. And what I mean, I'm talking about class schedule. I'm talking about just the resources. And we didn't have them at Tucker. We had the resources at Tucker were the kids. But, you know, you having to get on a bus every week and go to a stadium. We couldn't get all our kids in weight training. I was kind of fighting that. The other thing was you couldn't really pay coaches. There was a lot of 6 o'clock mornings trying to get kids to, in to lift weights, putting a lot more, taxing coaches, taxing the program. We did all those things. It was just one of those things, whereas, like I said, everything that we did, we had to fundraise for it. Well, I came from Burke County and Camden County where Coach Herring walks in and said, hey, what do y'all want? What toys you want, sleds, what kind of equipment you want. And Burke County, we didn't fundraise for no player packs and all that kind of stuff. We didn't have to fundraise to try to pay coaches. We had it. And then financially, I didn't think that, the financial resources were very good for coaches as well as myself. And I knew it was better out there. And honestly, I couldn't get a job. I mean, I applied for a couple of jobs, but I couldn't get a job. The 1-2 jobs I was offered, I was like, there's no need to be taking those jobs. I stay here at Tucker before I go to those places. And my old roommate, he's the principal down at Lamar County. And he lost his coach, Coach Strickland. He told me, he said, hey, man, you know what? I want you to come down and check out Lamar. And I really didn't even know where Lamar was. I had been through it on I-16, kind of going back and forth to Atlanta when I was in Statesboro. But as far as knowing where it was, I had no idea where anything about Lamar. And I go down and I kind of look at it and I look around and it's like, well, you know what? One good thing about it is it's a single system. We're finally going to have some resources. I watched some film and knew, once again, sophomores, juniors. I was like, hey, we're going to have some good players right here uh, uh, over the next couple of years. But I knew, and I had a good principal at Tucker, Mr. Jackson. He was great to work for. But I knew Derek, the principal, Derek Austin, and he's the superintendent down, put him now. I knew that he was a football guy, former guy who played at Southern. He's a guy that coached at Waco with Tomberlin, and he was going to be your principal. And his sons were playing football. So I knew it was going to be important, and I knew we would be able to get the things I thought we needed to be successful. And we did. We have a 2-year run where we go to the semifinals, and then the next year we get beaten in the state championship by Lubbock.
So it's the second school you've taken to the finals.
Correct.
And you get to coach your roommates. Well, he's your boss, and you get to coach his kids, and they're really good and great place. And so, where did you end up parlaying your success at Lamar County into?
From there, I went to Ware County,
Down to the swamp.
Yeah, went down to the swamp, and and down there, I thought once again, bigger stage. I thought at that time, 5A is kind of where you wanted to be because of the fact that you didn't have to deal with some of the stuff you dealt with in other places. Like I said, I felt like even in Double A at that time, we were still having schools that had, different resources. You're still dealing with the city schools, and people can say whatever they want to say. You're still dealing with the city schools who got a bigger pool of kids. You're dealing with private schools who got a bigger pool of kids. Where in 5A at that time, I thought that, hey, you know what? You're kind of on an even footing with everybody. And we go down there and we have we've got some good players, and we're off to a good start. We end up going undefeated in the regular season, and dang it, we run into Mays, and we end up losing in the second round of Mays. And like I said, it's one of those things. We thought we were on track to kind of, possibly have a chance to play for a state championship, but Mays beat us that night. And then the next year we come back, and we end up getting in the semis, and we end up losing in the semis 24-16 to Glen Academy.
Rocky Hidalgo.
Yes.
He's a dude.
Yes. He's interesting. I like Coach Hidalgo.
Yeah, he's a different cat.
Yeah, he's kind of funny to me, but we end up, when we were coaching against each other, but at the same time, afterwards, I think that we got a mutual respect and appreciation for one another.
So where'd you end
up? He
did
a great job.
Where'd you end up going after Ware County?
After Ware, I ended up at McEachern. And, once again, it's kind of similar story to Ware. The first year, we're undefeated in the regular season, but we ended up getting beat by Josh Downs and North Gwinnett in the third round. Not just Josh Downs, they had Barrett Davis. I think his name Barrett Davis, that linebacker over at Clemson now. But they ended up beating us in the third round. Don't get me wrong, we had our fair share of guys too. Trying to remember his name right now, Coach Stewart. Coach Stewart and those guys, they just outperformed us that night.
So how long were you at McEachern?
I spent 4 years at McEachern.
And then Mama called, as Bear Bryant once said.
Well, then all of a sudden, after the season at McEachern, I think Coach Parker had some health issues. He had a health scare, and he ended up going ahead and officially retiring. He had retired once, and he was working on 49%. Then he retired, and got an opportunity to come back to Burke County. And for me, I wanted to get back to a single. Eventually, when it's all said and done, I wanted to be able to get back into a one school system if I could, where football was where it's still important. And that comes with a lot of positives, then it comes with some negatives. But the other thing is, my dad passed in 2018, so it was important to get back. I didn't have to drive 3 hours to cut the grass anymore. Things such as that right there, where I can get in and take care of certain things from the mom. Then it was good to get back around familiarity. The big thing about coming to Burke County is we had to build a house. It just wasn't one of those things where you just move in and you're ready. And if you moved a lot, all of a sudden you just get tired of it. And, we had to move into a rental, then build a house and all that kind of stuff. But it's been a pretty dang good experience since being here. We've had some success this past year.
Yeah, I got to play for it this past year, and taking your alma mater to play for a state championship is pretty cool. So the fourth school that you take to at least the semifinals, and there's only one other person that's ever done that as well, and that's Papa Wins. So that's pretty freaking good company to be in for a younger legend. That's pretty awesome. Multiple state championships, 180 plus wins, and still pretty much got tread on the tires.
I don't know how much tread is there, but good God Almighty, I'm talking about this. It's running thin. Jesus Christ, it's running thin. And I still love it. Like I said, one of the things I enjoy is I still enjoy the growth and development of kids. And that's always kind of been one of my things. Don't get me wrong, I love to compete. But at the same time, when you can kind of get a kid as a freshman, maybe a sophomore, and just like this past year, we had some guys, my first year here, they couldn't play. They just weren't ready to play. They were juniors. And they got an opportunity to play their senior year, and they had a big senior year for us, and they made an impact for us. And to me, that's the great thing about high school football. And once again, I'm very, very honest. I'm gonna throw it out there. That's not what's going on in the high school scene anymore. And like I said, I've been the beneficiary on both ends. And what I mean by that is the transfers, but in these rural areas, there's no transfers. You got what you got.
Yeah.
So as I, we do these things called character teams now. And some of my coaches, they lead these teams, and they were complaining about, what kids are doing. What I said, what, even my kids who we're trying to, use this as a leadership tool, they're complaining about some of the guys. I said, hey, you guys are just like us. We don't get to pick and choose who come through that door. What we do is who comes to that door and say they want to play football and want to be part of the Burke County football program, they want to be bear built, we take them and we try to help them grow and be as successful as they can be, maximize their potential. That's what you got to do. And now we've gotten away from that. I mean, in high school football, and down here in AA, I think that it's a little different for us because we deal with a lot of rural guys, but at the same time, there's still some city AAs out there, whereas and people, they say they won't, and it's not a head coach thing. As I was telling a guy the other day, it's not a head coach thing. The head coach is probably, he's not out there doing anything.
How to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1, go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2, collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3, play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games, all for free?
Step 4, unleash your excitement.
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
You got parents. You got players. They're out. Come play with me. Let's play together. And next thing you know, instead of having to play with that sophomore kid who you got to develop, all of a sudden you get this stud senior transfer. Well, yeah, you can keep it going. You can keep it going as opposed to dropping off. Just like next year, we've had a quarterback. This will be his third. Next year will be his third year starting for us. Well, all of a sudden, guess what? We got to go to the following year. Following year, we'll probably go to a kid who, hadn't really played a lot. He's going to be a younger kid, possibility of a younger kid, where all of a sudden, if I had a kid, a senior who's ready to go, or a running back, we're losing our stud running back this year. All of a sudden, we look up and now we've got another one coming in. That helps the programs go as opposed to guys having to develop and coach what comes through the door. And I imagine they are coaching what comes through the door, but at the same time, it is a difference.
So what's some other things about the high school game that's changed over the years that, I ask everybody this, and you went ahead and named a big one. What's some other things you noticed, whether it's with young coaches or just the game itself, or things that's just changed over the years?
I think one of the things is the game has changed because of the fact that, there's no glory in tackling and being overly physical anymore. Everybody wants the ball in their hand and, they want to score and they want to get a highlight so they can tweet it out or put it on Twitter or put it on some type of social media. the game has been coming to the point where as you deal with a lot more selfishness now, because guys they're not playing for the team. They're not. I go back and I'll talk about one thing about Tucker, and this is just my take on Tucker. Those guys love to play for Tucker. It was something important that Tucker or whatever went across their chest. It was important, and you don't see that a lot anymore. Where guys, a lot of these guys, I hate to say they're mercenaries, but it's just like a mercenary. They're here for a time and they're out. You get guys, they may show up that summer and they play from the summer to December or whatever, and they're out. They're going to their college. There's nothing invested in that high school. That high school was just a place it was a stop off, and I get it. It's the same way in college and those types of things now. And I think the other thing that has changed, I think parents, they're scared for their kids to fail and go through stuff and be uncomfortable. They want to save their kid as opposed to let them go through something. We have this saying, handle hard better. Nobody wants to handle hard. When it gets hard, everybody wants to kind of shy away, tap out, find a different route, take my ball and go home or whatever. They don't want to go through hard. They don't want to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. But, when you're in our situation, like I walk around the weight room right now and I'm like, oh boy, Jesus Christ, we got to figure out a way to get it done. But somehow we've got to get our guys tougher because I've got to take this 5'8", 170-some pound guard, and he's got to deal with this 300-pound SEC kid in September. Now you may say, well, Coach, how is he going to deal with him? I don't know how he's going to deal with him, but I've got to.
But he's going to have to.
But yeah, I've got to get that edge on him and get that toughness on him where he's willing to keep fighting play after play after play after play. And guess what? If that 300-pounder ain't ready and he ain't been getting out there and doing the things he needs, he's going to have some issues because of the fact that I just feel like, our guy's going to be a little bit tough and he's going to want it a little bit more because of the fact that the things that we're going to put him through, we're going to get him where he's willing to handle hard. Whereas if that guy ain't handling hard very well, hey, he's going to win some battles just on that natural 300 pound. But at the end of the day, he's going to have a long night.
Ain't no doubt. And that's definitely changed. For sure.
Yeah,
I mean, that's one thing about y'all's Tucker team, your Tucker teams. That jokers would run through your face.
They would do that now. You had some kids who loved it. I mean, I'm talking about they love to play football. And that's another thing that's changed. Kids don't love to play like they used to play. I have more guys now, when you're trying to recruit at the halls and those types of things, I have more guys now. They'll tell you, hey, I want to play football, but I don't want to practice. I don't want to do the summer work. I don't want to lift the weights. Well, you can't play football.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what you can play, but you can't play football. And like I said, we're very fortunate here in Burke County that we have resources. We can do a lot of different things. But one of the big things we do is just try to invest in our players day in and day out, trying to get those guys better in everything that we do, whether it's academically and athletically, even in social pursuits.
Well, so who are some of the guys over the years that you've been a head coach that you've developed, that you just, not a rivalry, but you just enjoyed competing against, or you just enjoyed going up against, whether it was a respect or you just enjoyed when you looked across there, you were like, I don't know who's going to get who, but it's going to be a good one.
I tell you what, I've never worried about the coach across from me. Now, I did enjoy the marriage battles with Coach Chadwick. Like I said, when I dealt with Coach Davis, and there's been some other guys, but I never really worried about, like this year with Coach Slack. We caught Coach Slack in the first round of the playoffs, and I was like, just because he was in Canada and he knew the ins and outs of Wing T. And that made me a little unsettled just because of the, I'm talking about, he understood. A lot of guys don't understand it, but I never really worried about coaches. What I try to focus on is those high school kids. And I try to figure out, how can I get my kids to dominate your kids? Because that coach, he can be saying whatever he wants on that sideline. He can do whatever he wants. But if I can get my kids to dominate your kids, it gives us the best chance to be successful. So, like I said, when it comes, I got a chance to coach my first first game in Lamar, I coached against Nick Davis, who I worked for in Burke County. So I knew that, his kids were going to be tough. They were going to be this, they were going to be that. But I didn't worry about Nick. I worried about, all right, we're playing Spalding. What do we need to do to dominate these guys? A couple of this year, I ended up coaching, and last year, I coached against Coach Youngblood up at Thompson. Youngblood played for us in when I was in Burke County as an assistant. He was with me at Tucker. He was with me down in Ware County. And, I knew that he understood where he knew the terminology. Like I said, he knew a lot of the calls. So I was like, do we change some things? What do we want to do? But at the same time, I stopped worrying about him. I was like, all right, we're going to attack these guys. We're going to dominate with this. And that's kind of always been the philosophy. You start going back to Coach Herron. And one of the things that he used to have for us is, don't worry about who you're playing. Don't worry about that. And it was a little list of things that you focus on. And that's what I try to do, is focus on those things, stopping what they do best. Can we stop what they do best? All right, what can we do? What's going to be easy for us in these games? Like a lot of people do. It's just simple philosophies that are principles that we stick with.
And you stuck with them for sure. I mean, there's no doubt about it, because the amount of success you've been able to have everywhere you've been, you obviously know what it takes to get the kids to go. Some people will say, he's old school. No, you just you have a high level of expectation. The standard is what it is. And as y'all taught me years ago, it ain't nothing personal. It's just business.
Yeah, that's the point that a lot of people don't understand. They get caught up. And right now in our little weightlifting shirts that we got, hey, standards over feelings. Because kids are so feeling, what I'm talking about? They get in their feelings. And, even my son, when I was coaching my son, I'm talking to my son and my daughter, I spend more time telling them that, this is not a attack on you, that I'm trying to get you to understand whatever. And, we spend a lot of time telling our kids, you're being coached. You're not being attacked. You're not being overly criticized. What you're doing is you're being coached up, and we're pointing out certain things that got to be done in order for us to be successful.
You're being corrected.
You're being corrected. And like I say, they just get caught up in their feelings. And I'm like, man, when did boys get caught up in their feelings? And I tell them, all these young boys, they want to be men or young men. But I tell them, man, it's hard to be young men when you all in your feelings. So, it's just trying to get them to separate that part of it, that feeling part. And, when you're talking to a lot of them, the first thing they say, well, I feel. There you go. Here it comes. I believe. So, just trying to get guys to understand that, and especially in Burke County. And I told our guys this last year, I said, I didn't see Kirby fly in on no helicopter. I didn't see Key flying on no helicopter. I didn't see Coach Sweeney here. I don't see all those guys, because we don't have those type of guys. And I used the example of Walmart. I said, I don't go to Walmart. If Walmart didn't have groceries and the things I need, I wouldn't go to Lowe's. I wouldn't go to Lowe's if they didn't have the things I needed. So what it means that we don't have those type of guys, but we can still have success. But we just got to have success differently. And this is the way we're going to have success. And that's kind of how we went about our day-to-day business last year. It worked out for us that, we kept winning and found our way into a state championship game. And I do believe in changing, certain things. I think that you can't get so stuck that you're unwilling to change, because there's some things I've changed through the years, whether it's system, but for the most part, what we do is what we do. And it really starts with the weight room. Everything that we do starts with strength and conditioning and trying to get kids tougher. And I felt like the player I became when I was at Georgia Southern, I had a lot to do with just the mindset that Coach Hodges created in the offensive line within us. And it was a thing of just, we were going to be tougher, and there's no way that somebody is going to be tougher than us when they step between the lines. Now, it doesn't mean we're going to win every time, but you're not going to punk us out, and you're not going to be tougher than us. And we've just we build on that day in and day out. And listen, every day we're maxing in the weight room this week. And I'm on guys about it today, about shoot, you got to be tough enough to finish the squat. Guys get in that squat rack, and all of a sudden they start hurting, and they don't want to push themselves on through and strain and get through it. Well, they got to learn to strain. And you've got to put them in activities and different things to get them to strain and find out about themselves. Because anybody can be on their chest and talk about it. But, everybody wants to be hard till it's time to do hard things.
And you are definitely one of the last of the hard, as Coach Hodges' camps T-shirts used to say all the time. And I'm so thankful that early in my career I got to cross paths with you and be on the same staff with you and get to learn just from watching and build a friendship, so that over the years, if I ever needed to call on your expertise on things and to see what it really meant to be hard.
Well, I ain't hard no more. I don't got soft in my age. I don't got soft. Good God.
Yeah, but your soft is the average human's normal hard, so that's probably a misnomer. But I appreciate you coming on with us and sharing with us, and I hope you've got plenty of more years left and go on and bring that trophy home for your hometown.
Well, I appreciate it. And it would be great to do it, but I think, like I said, it's more important to get these guys here something they can believe in, and something once they leave this program they can be proud of, and they can go on and take care of their families. And I tell them, you've got to figure out what success means. And in my mind, success means that you're able to take care of your family, whether that's going on to college, whether that's going to trade school, whether that's going into the military, or even that's just working a regular job. Are you able to take care of your family? Are you able to be a good person, do things in your community to help your community be better? I tell guys all the time, hey, when you go back and you become a rec coach, these are the things that you need to make sure that you're teaching these rec kids. And, just making sure that you're giving back. But I'm appreciative of you have given me an opportunity tonight. But I'm more appreciative probably of all the people I've crossed paths with who's kind of helped on this journey. Because there's been a lot of coaches, a lot of parents, and especially when I was at Tucker, there was a lot of 6 o'clock mornings where his parents were bringing kids in. I'm talking about 3-4 times a week to lift weights, to do agilities. And, we still do some of the 6 o'clock stuff, but our schedules have changed in regards to how things are set up now. But there's a lot of sacrifice from a lot of people through the years to help with that success. And there's been a lot of great assistant coaches to help with it because of the fact that those guys have done a great job throughout the years.
Well, Coach, I sure do appreciate you.
All right. Well, I appreciate you having me.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Victory Lane? Yeah, it's even better with Chumba by my side. Race to ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21 plus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
If you work in university maintenance, Grainger considers you an MVP because your playbook ensures your arena is always ready for tip-off. And Grainger is your trusted partner, offering the products you need all in one place, from HVAC and plumbing supplies to lighting and more. And all delivered with plenty of time left on the clock, so your team always gets the win. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, visit Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.